I'm going to start off with a Bible verse. My beloved is mine, and I am his. Song of Solomon. You know, if there was to say, what is the one book of the Bible that you just don't get? Song of Solomon.
hmm
I don't get why it's there. I know starting from I think it was during the 1600s, they tried to rebrand it as it's all about Christ, and it may be. But when you read Song of Solomon, it's explicitly about being intimate with your spouse. Solomon and the Shulamite. And okay, anyway, um, today's episode, I'm Joey.
I'm Lori.
Hello, and we are Christ Centered Marriage and Family, and this is the big one. This is the show that we've been talking about for about a month, and we're doing it. We're going to talk about sex in marriage, and we're coming from a place in our life a couple years ago to where this was a problem for us. We struggled. We probably wasn't as bad as some people, and some people get into a life situation in their marriage to where the intimacy life is 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 very like dry like a creek bed,
Mm.
and there's no rain, and they just think that's just the way it is. You get married, and then 10 or 15 years later, you're not that intimate anymore. But it doesn't have to be like that. Lori, get us started.
We live in an over sexualized world. Much of what you see and hear around you revolves around sex, but not in a good way. God created sexual intimacy to be between a man and a woman in the covenant of marriage. But the world has turned this into something it was never meant to be. The world has turned it into something God never designed. Let me go back. God never designed
Right,
something sinful,
right.
something that destroys sexual intimacy and marriage. In today's episode, we're going to talk about that.
That's right. So before I start reading my notes here, the theme, the central point to this whole video is to understand what God's plan for sexual intimacy is, and it was all the way back from the creation, Adam and
Mhm.
Eve, and be able to separate that from the image that you've been given from the world. So, what I find disturbing is that we live in a nation where we used to be we're saying we're a Christian nation. But now I say that we are a nation of with some Christians. I don't say the nation is a Christian nation. I don't say that we espouse as a whole, the whole 50 states, Christian values. But it's no denying that Christianity has shaped the culture of our nation. But it's really shocking the way this United States of America views sexuality and marriage. Sexual immorality runs wild in our society. Ever since I was born, I have seen sexual immorality demonstrate all around me. Television, music, movies, magazines, the internet, and now social internet, Facebook, Twitter, X, I guess you call it now, and that what's that, TikTok,
Mhm.
Snapchat. There's so many different ways sexuality is displayed to us in the world. Uh, the world lives and breathes sexual perversion. Maybe one day we'll do a show specifically about how the influences around us uh influences us negatively about our sex life. But we're just going to touch briefly on that today. In this episode, we're going to touch how the society around us briefly impacts us negatively. As as I'm writing this episode, this was a started on this a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. This has been a while in the making. Um, as I started this episode, and you're going to have to think back a few weeks to get what I'm saying. Um, the world, especially the United States of America, is up in arms about this blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. What's her name? That's
That's Weenie. What's her
Sweeney
name?
girl,
I don't
whatever
even
her
know who
name.
she is, or
Blue Jean
I don't
commercial.
even know
They're up in
why she's
arms
famous.
about her um, promoting blue jeans and saying that she has good genes, and they're trying to make that a parody off of your genetics, and they make that into a racist thing. Uh, when I'm looking at it. I'm not thinking this sure is racist or is not racist. You know what I'm thinking? This is another example of our society sexualizing a woman in order to sell clothing. That's what I'm thinking when I see that. I'm saying that girl, that lady, whoever she is being sexualized. That's how we learn that stuff in clothing commercials, food commercials,
Everything. You
everything.
name it.
Okay, Lori, what impact do you think the overly sexual society, the overt sexualization of our society to us, um, what kind of perception did that have on us?
First and foremost, our children would know way too much too soon. And like we've said before, I'm a teacher. I teach sixth grade in public school,
Uh,
and they know way too much.
way too
I
much.
see it every day in the classroom.
Way too much.
Sexual innuendos all over the place. You can't.
Mm.
There are so many normal things that you have to say. And I teach math, and so you can imagine you can't say certain numbers because they start giggling, and you're just like, how in the world do they even know what that is?
And you know, I
And
mean,
they should know that.
and you know, to be honest, you know where they probably get that from, right?
Oh, everywhere. Social
Parents. They
media,
probably
yeah.
get it from the parents, more likely. From the parents. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So the culture teaches us that sex is just some casual thing that you do, just like going to the movie. It's part of dating, and instead of it being something that God has given us and reserved it just for married couples, and it's something that's sacred, and it should be something that is saved for marriage. It's just it's just it's just like going on a date, just part of going on a date. Go out and then you go do that. It's terrible.
Maybe one day we're going to talk specifically about the uh the wrong image, the wrong concept of dating that we have, especially for Christians. Right. You done with that?
Yep.
Okay, so that brings me to our the first point in this episode. And you know you're thinking, so what's that got to do with sex and marriage? It's got a lot to do with it. We're setting the framework of why sexual relations in marriage is
Suffering.
suffering, yeah, suffering, or not existent, or um abnormal, or whatever,
Mm.
poisoned. You got to know why. I like to know the why first. So let's establish that. So the first point in this episode is sexuality and marriages, even, or I say especially Christian marriages, suffer because men and women are not properly educated about sexuality and intimacy in marriage or relationships. That education should start at home and within Christian institutions. There are Christian books, and we're going to share some of those and resources online for sexuality and marriage that are Christian based. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of education in the areas from churches. Lori, why do you think churches teach so little about the biblical value? I'm not talking about, hey, let's teach a book about sex. No, let's teach the biblical value of sex. It's in there. Why do you think churches shy away from that? And what the negative impact does that have?
I think that just because of the way the culture creates such a negative and cheap image of sex, so it's seen as a taboo topic. Well, we're not going to talk about that because that's bad. Um, I don't think it should be taught in a sermon from the pulpit or anything like that. But having a separate class for married couples just to learn, God's design for intimacy would be really helpful.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if I would. Um, I don't think it would be a good idea for a pastor to preach on it every Sunday morning on the Song of Solomon. I mean, they might. I'm sure they do. But hey, Genesis chapter 2 and Genesis chapter 3, there's no reason why the pastor can't stand up here and talk about that.
Mhm.
It's all up, about relations and marriage. Okay, instead of learning about sexuality in churches or Christian institutions, we learn about sexuality from the world around us. And it starts at a young age, like she was saying, sixth grade. It probably before that.
Mm.
You're inundated. Kids are inundated in their preschool material, um, overtly sexual stuff. I'm not talking about the different gender roles and the homosexuality stuff, that's a whole different topic. I'm just talking about sexuality in general. Kids are inundated at a young age. Now, when I'm talking about sexuality being pushed on you, I'm not talking about the really bad stuff like pornography. That's a whole different subject. Uh, Even without pornography, the society would find a way to still push. They do. They still find a way.
Mm-hmm.
You can get rid of pornography, but there was everything will still be sexualized, just like that blue jean commercial. To
Mm-hmm.
me, I don't see a racist thing. I see a woman being sexualized to sell clothes.
And you can't even watch. We will have certain shows that we like to watch, and the same commercials play over and over again.
Yeah,
And I know you know which
sexualized.
commercial I'm talking about, but the whole commercial is about medication
Hmm.
from a sexual disease or whatever, and it's like you can't even get away from it in a regular commercial.
But since I was little, it's almost let's say I'm 54, so let's say about 48 years ago. Since about 48 years, I've seen a pattern of the desensitizing of sexuality and perversion in the TV shows that I watched. And you can name them, I can name them. Go back to Wonder Woman. Man, I thought when I was 7, 8 years old, Wonder Woman was cool. I look at it now, I'm like, holy, look at you look at that, Linda Carter, just Linda Carter. You look the way she's dressed,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to say, man, I wish them women wouldn't wear them tight spandexes or what do you call them, yoga pants. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at Linda Carter and Wonder Woman. Every kid watched that show.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the just the commercials on TV, the music I listen to. Holy moly!
I love. I think back at like from some of the hairband songs I listened to as a teenager in high school, and just jamming. You're not even thinking about the words, and now I think about those words, and I'm like, holy cow, that
I
song's
will.
terrible.
We're both we're a year apart in age,
Mm-hmm.
and we grew up in the '80s, so we listen to the same music. And she'll say, like, "Wow, that's a good song." I was like, "You know what that song's about?"
I'm like,
And I'll tell her, and she'll like,
Mhm.
"Bad." Okay, anyway, it's just that's how that stuff inundated to us. Um, and now we have in the books and magazines, and now we have internet and social media. That stuff, you can stream that stuff on your TV.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
kids are just, they're just given iPads as
yep,
babysitters, and
yep.
there's no
Kids can, you can give them what you think safe cartoons, and it's got sexual overtones in it.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so when I was a kid, so all you that are my age in the 50s or older, you probably got to be at least 48 or better to
Mm-hmm.
understand this. I like the show from the early 80s called Heart to Heart. A rich couple that had, their life was boring because they're so rich. They went around solving crime. Jonathan Hart and Jennifer Hart. That was one of my favorite shows. I watched that every Friday and whenever it came, a Monday or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it. I made sure that had the TV on, Heart to Heart. I wanted to be just like Jonathan Hart. Boy, he was the manly man. And when I get married, I want to marry somebody like Jennifer Hart. And at the end of every episode, if it wasn't if this didn't happen at the end of an episode, it was because it was a two-part episode. And it was going to happen at the second part. At the end of every episode, they ended up in bed, and they're getting romantic. They're about to get intimate, and the covers are going over them. And you know what's going to happen. Kids might not know, but they get that image in their head, burnt in their brain. Me as an 8, 9 year old boy, 10-year-old boy. That's the image I had. Jennifer Hart. You might like, oh, that's no big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal. Um, the secular music is full of sexual overtones. I know in the 70s and 80s, you had to kind of think about it and you had to connect the dots. Now you don't even have to connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? I'm not going to say it. I'm not even going to say the name, but this one uh, rapper a couple years ago had that song, and it was a 3 letters. Oh my goodness,
You're trying to hide it.
they're not even hiding it anymore. Yet you're hard pressed to find one church that has a Christian based class or a small group focused on helping married couples in their intimacy life. Lori, how has a secular world, like I was talking about, how's that influenced us about sexuality?
Well, everyone is doing it, so we should too. We don't want to look like weird. We don't want to be weird, or we don't want to stand out, I guess. We're supposed to be separate from the world. The Bible tells us to be separate from the world, but instead of being separate from the world,
Holy.
we
Set apart.
look just like them. You
Right.
probably couldn't tell a Christian from a non-Christian unless they tell you I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So you got homosexuality, you got fornication, you got cohabitation. I mean, you name it, Christians are doing it just like everybody else.
No big deal.
No big deal.
Yep. And you go to church. Look, I'm just saying. Okay, I'm gonna say it like this. You could probably go to church, and you could probably hear people talking about, well, I like that show Yellowstone or Game of Thrones or whatever, and I like this show that um back a few years ago used to be a show called Two and a Half Men. Holy moly, that's a terrible show. But you can probably hear people at church talking about, yeah, you watch Two and a Half Men the other
Modern
day?
Family.
Modern Family.
Yep.
Um,
Friends. Friends.
yeah,
Friends is bad too.
yeah, they're all bad.
Mhm.
Um, and then Christians think, yeah, I love that show. Yeah, oh yeah, I don't think anything about it. Don't
Mhm.
think anything about it. But I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just saying, and that's how they get their sexual images,
Mhm.
right? Anything
Yep.
else? Okay. So, and when I was talking about Jonathan Hart and
Mhm.
Jennifer Hart, um, um, I was trying to think of who are some modern. So I looked. I don't know all the modern people. I don't know
No,
who
we
the
don't even
women.
watch
I don't
those
know who
shows.
the girls think are sexy men. I don't know who the women idolize. So I looked it up, and the two names I got were Megan Fox and Chris Hemsworth. So, so when we get married, okay, the husband finds out right away. My wife is not Jennifer Hart as much as I want her to be. This woman right here is not Jennifer Hart,
Nope.
and I am not Jonathan. I am not her Jonathan Hart. Well, far from it. Well, yeah, but we cannot live like that TV show couple, heart to heart. That's not reality when you get married. It's hard. The Love Boat and
Oh yeah, I remember that
whatever
show.
else. Now I guess
Three's Company.
you got The Bachelor and what are these shows, these matchmaking shows. None of that's real. None of that is real life whenever you get married.
Mm-hmm.
And for you modern people, when you get married to your woman, she's not going to be Megan Fox. Or you get married to that awesome man, he ain't going to be Chris Hemsworth or whoever it is you think's
Yep.
great. Um, Men and women get the wrong idea of what they think a man or woman should be from society around them, from all these influences. And it programs your brain to think this is the way sexual relations should be. When I get married, this is the way it should be. And it's not.
Mhm.
It's not like that. Um, and it greatly hinders your marital relationship. And you get a image from society that having sex before you marry, it's okay. You shouldn't do it, but it's no big deal. And the Christians, if you do it, it's okay because God's going to forgive you. We get that image that it's no big deal. Okay. And my point to all this is that we get an unrealistic image of what sex should be, even what sex should be in marriage. We think what we want out intimacy life it's going to be just like we see in TV shows or the books or the magazines or the internet or even our friends or our, you know, emotions. Oh, she just makes me tingle, and when we get married, she's gonna make me tingle every day. It's just gonna be great because I've been around this girl for 4 or 5 years, and when we get married, this is gonna be awesome because this is the way the world tells me. When you get married, it ain't what you think it's gonna be.
Mhm.
Modern society promotes, like you said, anything goes attitude when it pertains to sexuality and intimacy. For many years, our society has been promoting safe sex. Even Christians, safe sex. And in the 90s, look, I was I was in my 20s. We were in our 20s during the 90s, but I heard back in the 90s it was a big thing to promote the purity thing to
Mhm.
teenagers. You know, we'd be like, hey, it's all around you. And so what we're going to do for the churches, we're going to help you. You know how we're going to teach you about it? We're going to tell you just say no. Just like in the 80s, the Nancy Reagan, the war on drugs, say no. That was the equivalent to the sexual um, purity thing in the
Mhm.
90s. Church would say, okay,
True
kids.
love waits.
Yep.
That's
Oh,
what it's
yeah.
called.
Kids, we're just going to say, no, you're going to be pure. Okay, well, tell me, uh, What? How should I view sexuality? Wait till marriage. And that really did more harm than good. Uh, but safe sex is not the answer. The answer should be sex is specifically for marriage, and then tell kids to get away from the worldly stuff. Put that stuff away. Do not be poisoned by the world around you. And but we have a hard time doing it. Now our society promotes homosexuality, lesbianism, transgenderism. Um, there's a new thing. What do you call it?
Polygamy. No.
It's not polygamy. It's the
Um,
one where two couples live together. They're like you and me are married, and the other couple married, and it's kind of
I can't remember. Yeah. I've never seen that, so I can't remember what it's called.
crazy. Okay. All right, Laura, you're up.
So you may say, what does all this have to do with me and my marriage? It actually has a lot to do with it. It's a good possibility if your intimate life is struggling in your marriage, it may be because you have the wrong image of what sexuality in marriage actually is. The real problem in most marriages is that there isn't true intimacy. There may be some form of sexuality, but true intimacy may be lacking. In his book, Kingdom Marriage, Tony Evans writes, most married couples can attest that it is possible to have sexual relations without romance, but it is rare to have romance without sex. One of the biggest problems married couples have is that there is no romance in their marriage. We have learned a term in the marriage conferences we have attended, and it's called oneness.
Oneness.
One of the biggest problems in marriages where intimacy is lacking is that there is no oneness.
Right. And this oneness was first demonstrated in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. In Genesis 3:23 through 25, we see it. I'm going to read this. The man said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. He was excited. She's bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. We are one. We are together. Two of us have become one. She shall be called woman because she has taken out a man. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. That's that union, the godly union that's designed only for marriage. It's not designed for teenagers that want to just play around and have girlfriend after girlfriend and boyfriend after girlfriend. Boyfriend after boyfriend. Or it's not designed for single adults that want to go finding people and a hookup crowd or whatever.
Yeah.
It ain't designed for people that want to cheat around. It's designed for the husband and wife in the bond of marriage ordained by God, blessed by God. That oneness. And the man and his wife were both naked and not ashamed. You know why they were not ashamed? It's not because they didn't know they were naked. They were not ashamed because, well, it was because they hadn't sinned yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they were not ashamed because they were within the bonds of God's covenant. And they were, walking with God, and they were living that marriage that God designed for them. This is the first example of oneness in marriage. This is designed for marriage. If you were to say, what's a perfect example for marriage? Adam and Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Genesis chapter 2, 23 to 25. That's my answer. Adam was excited over his companion. He and his wife Eve shared true oneness. They were not ashamed. Marriages today struggle with oneness, and they carry a lot of shame. A lot of shame. And one of the reasons why there's a lot of shame is because their marriage is not Christ centered. Their marriage is not godly. It's not biblical. They're trying to pattern their marriage after the worldly expectations and the worldly view, and that carries a lot of shame. God designed sexual intimacy for a man and a woman in the covenant of marriage. Intimacy in marriage was designed by God to be a great thing shared by a husband and a wife, and there's to be no shame. No shame between the husband and wife in their intimacy life. No shame. It's a good thing. God designed it as a good thing. The first thing we need to know and understand is that sexual intimacy between a husband and woman, a husband and a wife, in the bond of marriage, is God's design, and it is a good thing. And we should see it as a good thing. And here's one thing that I want to say that is big in the fundamental crowds. Sex between a husband and wife is not just for procreating. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the things God designed. God designed the man and the woman to procreate by the means of sexual relations, but that doesn't mean that, well, if you can't procreate, then it doesn't matter. He designed that to be a moment to where you can get intimate and you can enjoy yourself. God wants you to enjoy each other, not like some of these um, Middle Eastern religions where, and the Muslims um, make it to where their wives don't enjoy sexual relations. But that's another subject. But um, it's not just for making babies. And God doesn't, I can't, for the life of me, this whole patriarchal thing, I'm not going to name the names
Hmm.
because we're done with that. We did that video a couple last week. But the people that want to say that the wives need to just stay at home and make babies, that's not necessarily the way it should be. There's nothing wrong with a wife that has a good husband that loves her and she gets to stay home. We have a stepdaughter, we have a daughter-in-law.
Darn.
Our oldest boy works so and provides so his wife, our daughter-in-law, can stay home. But he ain't forcing her to have 15 babies.
Hmm.
No, and he's not demanding and demeaning of her. Um, Lori, why don't you talk about how a husband and wife can work toward achieving this oneness in marriage?
So a lot of people will say sex doesn't begin in the bedroom; it begins in the kitchen. And again, in his book Kingdom Marriage, Tony Evans states that sex doesn't begin in the bedroom or in the kitchen; it begins in the brain.
State of mind.
The way you think or are made to think about sex affects your actions towards sex.
Hmm.
So it's how you think about it. It's like your mindset, like you
That's
said.
right. That's right. Not and you got you. It's not the way the world wants you to think. You have to think about each other's. I need to think about what she's thinking about. She needs to think about what I'm thinking about. We need to become one together. One in your thoughts and your emotions. You know, it may seem like an impossibility. You may never get there totally, but you can work towards it. Okay, in their book, Married Sex, a Christian's Couple's Guide to Reimaging Your Love Life, and I'll show you that later. Gary Thomas, who is a Christian pastor, and Deborah Falita, who is a Christian author, speak of false expectations we have in regards to sex and marriage. That's one of them books. That's the book that we went to the marriage conference for the first time. We're like, we're not getting that book. And then when we left, we're like, let's buy that book.
Hmm.
Open our mind. It's a good book, and we're gonna tell you about that in a minute. So in uh, they got what you call a chapter on sex expectations, to where they list a bunch of different. It's like a dozen different false premises, your false ideas of what.
Myths.
Yeah, yeah, myths. The way you had the false way of thinking about the way sex life is going to be. So, and we're going to both go back and forth about these. I just picked a few. The first one is sex will always be amazing. In reality, your marital intimacy will vary. Each experience will not be the same. Some experiences will be better than the others. There may be things that a husband and wife need to overcome, such as pain or emotional trauma from the past. Um, or, I mean, it could be something really, really, really terrible, like abusive parent or something, sexual abuse as a kid,
Hmm.
or spousal abuse. In order to have sexual experiences, they need to overcome these things, and then the other spouse needs to help that spouse that experienced that. They need to be understanding and help that spouse. And this will take honest conversations and patience. Okay, Lori, the next one.
Sex will be easy and will happen often. When we returned from our first marriage conference, it was like we were on a second
Hmm.
honeymoon. And at times, our intimacy life was easy. It was often, but as time went on, we settled into a rhythm. There were times when things got in the way of our planned intimacy nights, stress, sickness, long days, and we had periods where we weren't intimate. But those times didn't last long, and we would eventually get back together.
Yeah, and when you can't get discouraged when you set into a rhythm, I would say we're in a good rhythm. And um, sometimes our times together are just as good or better than it was when we were in our second honeymoon phase. Okay. And another misconception is sex is primarily for the man. And I'll admit that men's sex drives are higher, and I'm probably one of those. And I'm more ready and willing than she is most times. But since our first marriage conference, her sexual desires have been greater than it was in the past. Uh, there are times when my sexual desire will be greater than her desire level, but she will lovingly and openly participate. And that, look, I'm not saying that in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
She's never forced. And there are times when, and I'm going to talk about this later, but I got to read her and I'm like, tonight's not the night, you know? And tonight's not the night. And I'm not going to try to push it. And then when she sees that, she goes, I don't know what's going on through her mind, but I'm thinking tomorrow. It's kind of a relief to her. But I'll talk about it in a minute. Um, there are there are some times when it is her idea, and maybe she'll remember. Well, we kind of missed some times, and she'll do things. And here's the thing: you may have a wife that is just crazy romantic, and you know, uh, I'm not gonna get too carried away with these wording, but you may have a wife that's just subtle, give you subtle hints. Sometimes she can give me subtle hints. Okay, now next topic, Lord.
Sex will eventually fizzle out. One of the things that has helped us in prioritizing our intimacy life to the point that we put our intimate nights on a calendar. So if we don't schedule our nights, it will get to the point where we are back to nearly a sexless marriage. Having our nights prioritized out helps me get my mind ready and better prepared. And not giving away too much of our private life, Joey and I found what works best for us in our intimacy moments. And we have learned how we can both find enjoyment from it. So there are rarely times when the intimacy isn't good for both of us. Most times we both find mutual satisfaction, and that is critical to keeping the love life alive. When it is only good for one person, the other person loses interest and starts to disengage.
Okay, for the most part, this whole video is going to be kids can listen to this, and teenagers can listen to this too. But I'm gonna make a quick statement here. Men, trying to think of TV characters. Only the first one that comes to mind is Al Bundy. Don't be Al Bundy's. Don't be Al Bundy's, guys. Um, don't be in it for yourself. A lot of guys say, "Well, I don't know what to do." Find out. Find out. Find out what works for your wife. Because look, if your wife not happy during the sexual intimate times, she's going to disengage. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, okay. Now the next one is, I will always be in the mood. Right? It will always be in the mood.
Yep.
Sometimes that don't always work for me. For the most part, that does fit me here, but there have been times when Lori and I um have gone a week or two to where we just weren't intimate, and we just like this. We just need to tonight needs to be tonight because we just have gone for a while and
There was a
we
time
don't
where
want to
like
go cold.
I got sick for a week, and
Yeah.
then he got what I had, and he was sick, or vice versa, and so you just you have those times where like we're just gonna wait, and then
But
we don't wait too long.
and you think people watch this maybe they're going, I've never heard anybody talk like this. We wouldn't have talked like this 2 years ago.
Well,
We would avoid each other when times were great 2 years ago. We had walls, and you probably think, okay, yeah, we did. We got walls too. Now you're talking our language, but that's not the case anymore. So back to where I was at here. And there was times that Lori and I were intimate just because it was time to be intimate, and we just had some stressors going on. Um, and we have kid problems, work problems, bill problems, just outer stressors, and we just spent, you know what, emotionally and physically, but we was like, we need to get together tonight. and we do. Um, we understand it. Now, and here's where you're probably going to your jaw is going to drop, but it might be times where we were not intimate for 10 days or 2 weeks, and that's a stretch. You might be, we both realize that hey, we can't prolong anymore. We both now realize that it's not good to have prolonged periods where we're not intimate together. And I'm and I've gotten pretty good at reading her moods. And like when she said that we last last year we got to where we scheduled our intimacy nights. And we had it on our phone calendars. We knew that way we can plan it out. And like I said, if you don't be intentional about it, and well, we were planning on having Friday nights as our night, but things are going on. So now instead of every night, every Friday, it becomes every other Friday, and then once a month, and now you're back to once every 2 or 3 months, and then you're back to a sexless marriage. So we started scheduling it out, and it worked. Um, but I gotten pretty good at reading her moods, and I might go, no, tonight's our night, but I'll go. You know what? I think we need to postpone it for another night. What do you think? And then I'll get the, she'll be like, and it clears her mind, and then and it works out. And it would have been best if we did that, because if I tried to push it, it wouldn't have been the right thing to do. It wouldn't have been the right thing to do, husbands. When you try to push it, it's not the right thing to do. Let's see, and it works for us, and it works for us, and it can work for you too. So right now you might be thinking, how do you get to that point in your marriage? All that stuff you're talking about. How do you get to that point? Y'all talk about it like it's something easy. Well, it is easy, but
You got to talk about it.
so May 15, 16 months ago, we wouldn't even said the three-letter word.
Mm-hmm.
Not even said the three-letter word. Much less had a book like this. We wouldn't have had a book like this. You know, uh, it's been a process for us, and it starts with conversation, right?
Yep.
The first thing you must do to solve any problem in marriage, any problem, including especially sexual intimacy, is talk about it. Even if the other person doesn't want to talk about it first, talk about it. It may not happen the first conversation. It may not happen the second conversation. It may not happen the 15th conversation. It may take going to a marriage conference
Before you realize,
and being forced to talk about it.
yeah, we didn't realize how much we didn't talk till we, were basically made to because we had homework assignments.
And we're sitting at a marriage conference with our books. You know, they're talking about sex. Okay, now, husband and wife, we're going to give you 15 minutes to talk about this. And you're like, but look, hey, we broke down some walls, and we just broke down some walls. A husband and wife must have honest and open talks about whatever their problems are. And if the one holding back is the husband, let go, release your grip, talk to your wife. If the wife's holding on, let go, talk to your husband. Ask each other intentional questions. During our first marriage conference, and we are talking about this. The session on sexual intimacy was very difficult for us, and when we were told to talk about it, it was very awkward. But it was a start of breaking down the barriers we had set up in our intimacy life. And it's not in here, but what really got us going the right direction was podcast from these two people, Ryan and Selena Frederick. Fierce Marriage. Look them up. YouTube, X, Facebook, Amazon. These people are the most candid and
Just down to earth.
keep it real. They're Christians, and they will and 90% of what they say is Christian based, and the rest of it is just joking around,
Life
having a good time,
experience,
life
yeah.
experience. This is what Ryan and Selena Frederick what really got us going. Listen to them, and they are candid and open. I'm thinking, how do you get to that point? How do you get like them? It's amazing. Okay, anyway, we're kind of drifting off here. When you actually get brave enough to talk to each other, excuse me, about when you get brave enough to talk about this problem, your marital intimacy, um, it might be a good time for a husband to ask, what can I do?
You drink my tea.
No, I'm just kind of stopped of it. Ask your wife, what can I do to help us, to make you feel more loved and desired? What can I do to better our intimacy life, to get you more interested in me? And ask her if there's anything that you're doing wrong, anything you need to correct. So, Lori, now I want you to give a wife's look at it from the wife's perspective. What are some things that a wife could do better? Or, you could ask your husband and let them know about yourself during open conversation, and that might help their intimacy life.
We ask about anything going on that is a stress to me right now. And he's gotten pretty good at reading when I'm stressed out.
Good man.
You got to pay attention to your wife. He learned how to do that.
Yes.
It could be work, it could be kids, it could be money problems, it could be, just stuff that maybe you just kind of overlook or you just take for granted. This is the way life's going to be, whatever it is.
And don't go, what's wrong with you, woman? It'll be all right.
So, what can you, the husband, do to help relieve those stressors? So, help with cleaning the house or, whatever that is. He helps do the budget and I don't have to deal with that. So, just whatever that is for you. If a wife has a negative body image, then the husband needs to make her feel beautiful in a non-sexual way. Well, he's really good about doing
Look, let me stop you. Okay. So in his book, one of his books, his podcast, he says no matter what your wife looks like, she may not look like Megan Fox or Wonder Woman or Jennifer Hart, whatever it is, or the girl in the Sweeney girl in the Levi's commercial. But he's like, Ryan Frederick said, his wife, is the object of beauty to him. So
standard beauty.
the standard of beauty, standard. So Lori Rose is the standard of beauty for me, and I tell her that,
He does.
and it makes her feel appreciative.
So if you, as the wife, feel like the only time your husband wants to spend time with you is when he wants something, then you will be turned off by any idea of being intimate. So if you, as a husband, can't show your wife affection the other times apart from when you are physically intimate, apart from bedroom time, then you, as a wife, will bristle at or reject any affection from him. So, is there any baggage from past relationships, especially if you have been divorced, that you're still struggling with? And I'll just say that from experience. There are some things that I didn't realize I was struggling with until after that first conference we went to. Um, so you got to talk about it, like we said before.
Mm-hmm. And we both were. We both had different experiences, and it may be a woman may have had some inappropriate relationships before you got married, and you may have been sexually active, or men may have had some sexual experiences they shouldn't have had, and it may have really damaged your view of sexuality. You know, you need to work. You need to,
Or maybe even how
yeah,
you were treated as the spouse.
yeah.
Now, you weren't the one maybe doing the things that were wrong, but your spouse was. So you got to get work through that too.
Yeah, work through that. So you both may have to deal with some issues with the way you view sexual intimacy. You may have some unrealistic expectations about intimacy, maybe about the way you thought it should have been, and about the wrong images and ideas that you have been given from the world's view of sex. There may also be some external forces getting in the way, like unhealthy friendships. You may have, and I'm not talking about like affairs. You may have some people whispering in your ear, well, he shouldn't be like that. He shouldn't expect it. You'd have to perform on demand, or she shouldn't just be like that to you. It should be like this, or it should be like that. That happens. Affairs do happen, but and it could be just, people just whispering in your ear, telling you things that you shouldn't hear. And it could be addiction to pornography or any other kind of external hobby that's getting in the way. These things may need to be dealt with in marriage, and you do so with open and honest conversation. Next, after the intentional conversation about your intimacy life, you need to start the change process of how you view your sexuality and the approach you take to better your intimacy life. First, you must realize that sexual intimacy was created by God as something to be shared within the covenant of marriage. Now, I don't really know how to help people that can't think like this. If you're against God, if you're against anything God related or Jesus, and you don't want to think anything Bible related or Christian based, then it's going to be hard for you to understand these things. But that's the way we think. The term consummate is often used when referring to how a marriage um, was made complete. When a husband and wife have sexual relations for the first time, what's a Catholic term in it? Consummate the marriage.
I think so.
Uh, Ryan and Selena Frederick, in their books, in their podcast, they often say being sexually intimate is like renewing your covenant vow. It's like consummating over again. When you become sexually intimate in the marriage, every night, every time, you are renewing your covenant to each other. You're renewing that covenant of oneness that was intended for you and her only, you and your husband, you and your wife in marriage. Sex within marriage is a way for a husband and wife to experience that oneness, not just physical, but spiritual and emotional oneness. Each time you are sexually intimate with your spouse, you are, in essence, renewing your covenant vow with them of this oneness and sharing with them something special that God created specifically for the covenant of marriage. Next, you must evaluate the way you go about approaching how you initiate sexual intimacy. It goes beyond the few minutes or hours before you immediately become intimate. I got a question I'm gonna ask her, but um, as I'm reading this, I thought about some things I didn't think about before. Men just can't say, come home from their golf outing or with their buddies or putting down the video games or come out of the garage and go sit down. Honey, hey, you want to go hit the bed?
No.
Where you been all week? So, Lori, what are some things that have helped you and me too, help both of us become ready to be more prepared to be sexually intimate with me?
Well, one thing is we talked earlier about doing things to help take the stress away. And he knows, like, if I'm really stressed out that day, maybe I just had a really bad day at school or whatever. He knows, if I bring a lot of schoolwork home, for example, I think was last weekend.
Yeah.
Um, I was like, oh yeah, I got to do this because school had just started. So if you're a teacher, right at the beginning of the school year, and all this stuff you got to do. And I was like, well, I got to do this. I got to clean the bathroom, and I got to do. He was like, go sit down. I'll get the bathroom. Don't worry about it. I'll get the bathroom. So things like that help. Um, we like to we make it a point to sit on the couch every night
Yeah.
for at least like the last hour or so
Yeah.
before we go to bed. Sometimes longer, it just depends on what's going on. We might read a book together. We have some devotionals we've read through together. We have our Bible that I started off reading beginning. Sometimes we'll just read a passage out of that. Sometimes we'll just sit and talk about things. Sometimes we just watch a TV show. We've discovered a favorite TV show. We just kind of stream. And we'll watch this episode or two of it.
And we're sitting together. I'm doing something with her.
Yep.
We're doing something together that is a non-sexual um, um, time,
Yep.
bonding time.
And like for him to put his arm around me or something like that without, and it's good to do that when you know you're going to be in for that, but it's also good to do it when you know you're not,
Mm-hmm.
because you need to be able to, because those times when you have that physical touch that's non-sexual help build up to those times where you are intimate. Helps you feel like you're not being used, I guess is a good way to put that. You like to hold hands, whether we're walking into church, whether we're walking in the restaurant. He opens a car
People,
door for me.
people look at that and they think, look at them. That's amazing. Like, it's nothing big. It's just what we're supposed to. That's what I'm supposed to do with her.
Yeah.
That's what we like to do.
Well, kissing, what was it? I can't remember where we saw it first, but I think we've seen a couple different places where it's called, there was a 9-second kiss and
Ryan
there
and
was
Selena
like
Frederick.
a 13-second or
Yeah,
something.
it's Ryan
Anyway,
and Selena Frederick.
uh,
These
so it's
guys,
more than a peck in the morning and
the
a
oxytocin,
hug. Yeah, oxytocin, Lisa's
oxytocin.
oxytocin. So we try to do that in the morning before we go to work. And, I usually home for he does. So usually, for the most part, when he gets home from work, we try to do that. We send texts every day. He's better about initiating that because I'm at school and I'm busy running around with kids and stuff. And so he'll send me a text and I might not be able to answer it right away until I get to my lunch break or something, but I always try to at least acknowledge it and say something back to him. Leaving notes. If you can see our bathroom mirror, we have all these little post-it notes. On his side of the mirror, he's got ones I've written, and on my side of the mirror, I've got ones he's written. Just he'll leave one in my lunchbox. He makes my lunch for me every day, and so sometimes he'll leave a post-it note in my lunchbox.
Better coffee ready.
Yep, gets my coffee going, and sometimes we'll just buy each other a card for no reason,
Yep.
just because we want to.
She got me this card the other day. My favorite place to be in your arm. It's pretty good. It's special. You know, it's just I think she knew that I've been going through some stressors, and
Hmm.
I was like, that's awesome. This is
And then he
wonderful.
got me one today, so here's my one today. So yeah, I'm not very good at verbalizing those types of things, and so I just thought I'll get him a card and let him know.
Hmm.
And then another thing we do is we go to bed at the same time. Before this conference, he would go to bed, and then I would stay up for like another hour or so, just doing nothing special on my phone or doing dumb, just looking at dumb stuff on Facebook. Um, and then after the conference, we decided that we were going to start going to bed at the same time, whether we're going to be intimate or not, doesn't matter. We go to bed at the same time. That way we can at least, have a few minutes before we go to sleep, whether we want to talk about something or just hold each other, whatever it is. We just like to go to bed at the same time. Plus, I think it helps us go to bed at a better time
Yeah.
because I was really
Yeah.
bad about
Yeah.
staying up till like 11
Yeah.
or 12 o'clock, and then I was exhausted all the time. Um, so I think, it serves two purposes there. It keeps us close, and it also keeps me from staying up all night.
And we're using an intimate term in a specific way, but the intimate is really it means a big
It's
broad term.
emotional intimacy
Yeah.
and physical
Yeah.
intimacy.
So us going to bed together, that's just and us sitting by each other and holding hands and that's the intimate right there. It's intimate in a different way.
That's the oneness.
The
Holy Spirit
oneness.
creates the
That's it. The
oneness.
oneness.
Yeah.
Yep. There's no oneness if you don't go to bed at the same time.
Yeah. All right, I'm done with that.
Okay. I learned that I can't go for days or weeks without doing these things. I can't just say, well, to slack off and from the housework or the paying attention to her or the things that I normally do that she appreciates. I can't just slack off from that for days or weeks and just expect her to run over to me. And when I signal, I'm like, I'm sitting on the couch, hey, and she's gonna say, "What do you want?" But so we've gotten this you could say routine or healthy habit. I'd say healthy habit.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy habit. This new lifestyle to where we are involved. We're not smothering each other.
Mm-hmm.
We don't smother each other. We have times we're doing our own thing, but it ain't the majority of the time. It ain't the majority of the time we're separated. Most of the time we're pretty close to each other in one way or another. Uh, I need to be intentional daily about expressing my love, my interest, my care, concern, appreciation. And yes, my desire toward her every day in various ways. She needs to recognize that I'm doing these things to express my love and my interest and concern and appreciation for her. And when she sees that, she must be willing to acknowledge this is what he's doing. And I need to acknowledge that. I need to acknowledge that he's doing these good things to for me, and I need to acknowledge that. And that will, if you're in the bond of a Christian marriage and the husband and wife are in that relationship, then it will matter. So I'll just leave that like that. I must express to her that my love and interest goes beyond the bedroom, so to say. Um, I must be intentional in showing my wife that I value her in all things in our relationship. I don't do this specifically for the reward in the bedroom. I enjoy sitting with her, watching our TV shows or reading the Bible together, or when we're both stressed out, when we just had a wild day, we just kind of sit back and just together.
Hmm.
And we need that. We need a time where we're both sitting together and we're both stressed out together and we're both helping each other deal with that. That's the oneness. Um, I must be intentional in showing her that I value her in all things in our relationship. I don't do this specifically for a word, but by demonstrating to your wife that your interest and concern for her goes beyond what you get in the bedroom, it will help her desire you more. A lot of guys go, I don't know why my wife just don't desire me. I don't know why. Well, it could be a problem with the wife, and she may have to deal with that on her own. She may have to be honest with herself, or it may just be you, the husband. A lot of time
Hmm.
it's the husband not really realizing it. But like I said, come out of the garage, come out of your study, you know, quit working on the toys and stay off the video games or whatever it is. Show your wife some attention.
Yep.
Did I miss anything, Lord?
I don't think so.
Okay, so we're getting down to the end here. Um, Lori and I had to overcome a lot in our sex life, and so you can say we went from a near sexless marriage. It wasn't. I've heard some horror stories. You know, um, when we first started going through this process, we were watching Christian-based YouTube videos um, about sexual intimacy, and we were trying to learn. We never been to a point to where our sexual intimacy was just growing like this. It was a year ago. It was like we were just first married, like we were young 20-year-old kids married again, and we just wanted to know how can we make this better? How can we make this better? How can we make this better?
How can we make it last?
How can we make it last? And we made it last. It's just we're at a different level
Hmm.
now. We're not like 20-year-old kids now. We're like 50,
Yeah,
54 year olds.
we're
We're like 54-year-olds and we're doing what you call, um, what do you call it? We're in a routine,
healthy habit, like
a
you said.
healthy habit. Yeah. But, you can read stories and accounts and testimonies of people that say, we only have sex once a year. We weren't that bad,
Mm.
you know, but we weren't, you know, I want, we weren't a healthy lifestyle. We weren't our sex life wasn't healthy. And look, okay, we're gonna put our email address in there, and if you want to email us, you can. If you have a serious concern, because I don't want you to air your business on email. I mean, on YouTube for everybody to see. If you have a serious concern or question, email us, and we'll be glad to answer. Because some people are in some serious ruts in their sex life. Before we had this transformation in our sex life, we had long periods where we were not sexually intimate, not a year, you know, not like months at a time.
Like a few months or something.
The In the first few times we were sexually intimate, were not great and few and far. And the before, okay, I know what I was trying to say. Before our transformation, the times that we were together sexually were few and far between, and it was just kind of like
Going through the motions.
going through the motions. Wasn't anything to write home about. But that's all changed now. I'll just leave it at that. There was a lot of frustration and avoidance when it came to our intimacy. We had the wall. We had a brick wall, a 10-foot thick. It was the taboo. You may think, yep, that's where I'm at. It don't have to be like that. Doesn't have to be like that. Trust me. Um, Here are some of the new habits that we have implemented.
Some of the stuff we've already talked about, but
Yeah, and here's what we've done to help us not go back to what we were and help us stay in this rhythm, in this healthy lifestyle. So we're going to go back and forth again. So the first one is we take time every day to spend quality time with each other. And it ain't like, okay, hey, it's 9:05. Let's sit down and do our quality time. No, we want to. We like it. Sometimes it'll be an hour. Sometimes I'll just sit down at 6 o'clock and I'll sit right next to her and we'll watch TV and just sit there and talk for 4 hours. We end each night by spending 1 or 2 hours together having intentional conversations, just watching a TV show, reading a devotional, or read the Bible. The point is, we take time to show each other that we value time together. Okay, Lori, what's the next
we go to bed together at the same time every night. So we go, like I said earlier, I used to go, he'd go first and I'd go up later. But now he's like, all right, you ready to go to bed? Yep, let's go to bed. So we go to bed together at the same time.
And this may it may not seem like much, but some of you may think, well, we don't even sleep together. We sleep in different beds or we sleep at different times. And for some people, this may be that will never happen. We will not go to bed together every night. Well, you need to. You need to figure that you need to go husbands and wives, unless you're working crazy hours, you need to go to bed together at the same time. Next, we get up in the morning and we try to share time together before we start our day. Like we said, the hug and the kiss and the coffee, and she does her Bible study, and I kind of do my own study, and then we'll talk to each other. We definitely spend 5 or 10 minutes talking to each other. We just like know that we are together in the morning. Just the sense of being together. You don't even have to say anything. You're together in the same place
Mm-hmm.
for the same purpose. Um, and we greet each other when we come home from work. All right, next.
We send messages to each other every day. So, like I said earlier, we send text messages to each other. And he normally send me one first because I'm at school and not only am I busy, but I'm in kind of my building's in like a small town. The internet's not great, so sometimes it takes me either I'm too busy to answer or I don't get it until like I walk outside, go get
Mm-hmm.
the kids from an activity or whatever. But I usually try to. By the time I go to lunch, I'll see it, and I usually try to answer them if not before then. So we do, you know, at least have that during the day. So that's good. I like that.
We're going back on the date nights. Um, and when I say date nights, I mean you go out on a date and go somewhere nice, put your phones away, and enjoy each other. And you ain't got to sit there and just talk. So you need to be quiet. Just be with each other and have a nice place, a romantic setting. Go out on date nights.
And if you have small kids, if you can try to get a sitter,
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend that because you just need that time away. Just where it's just you two.
Yep. And we do weekend getaways.
Yep.
We like our weekend getaways.
Yep.
Okay, next.
And we hold hands when we're out in public. Like we said earlier, we hold hands. We're going somewhere, even if it's like we have a Starbucks that opened up not too long ago, right down the street from us. And we'll hold hands just walking the Starbucks, even though it's not but 20 feet into the Starbucks. We'll hold hands
And
walking
those
the Starbucks.
tell you those young girls, they say, oh, they like, oh, there they are. They just think we're cute. Them young girls that work there, they're that couple again.
Yep.
Mhm. Um, we made our bedroom romantic. So when I set our video up today, I put some candles out so you can see our candles. So that was intentional.
Hmm.
These candles are not going to be on every episode. These candles are to kind of tell you that's what we done. We made our bedroom romantic. Ain't nothing
Nothing
kills.
crazy.
Yeah, and nothing going to kill the mood. This is I think we heard in one of the books or we heard a podcast. A woman said nothing kills the mood more than a cluttered up bedroom. Clean up your bedroom.
Hmm.
Get the junk out of it. We put a nice romantic picture over the bed. Nothing crazy. Like
Hmm.
kiss me before bed. Something nice. And we
We
put
got new bed, like
candles,
a new comforter and stuff.
comforter.
Yep.
We got the scented candle things. Um, and we discovered some just instrumental music that we
Mm.
put on. Um, it ain't gotta be risque, or we're not talking about
Extravagant.
yeah, no 50 Shades of Grey stuff.
Nope.
Just make it to where it feels romantic, and whatever that means
And
for you.
relaxing.
Or the wife may, wear something romantic, or the husband wear something romantic, or put some cologne on, or
Yeah.
something.
Shave your face.
Yeah, shave your face. Yeah, she when we talked, one of the things that she said was, "I don't like it when you don't shave." Like, okay, I'm gonna shave. I'm gonna shave. If that's what that's what's gonna help. I'm gonna shave. um, so yeah, make your room romantic. Okay, next.
After our second honeymoon phase, we started talking about how we would keep our intimacy life alive, and we decided to schedule our intimacy nights. We actually made notes in our calendars for a few days we agreed on being intimate, and for the most part, we stuck to that schedule. We also had the agreement, and still do, that just because the night is not on the schedule doesn't mean it can't be a spontaneous moment, but because you need those.
Hmm.
But it's good just to have those scheduled nights because for me, especially with school on my brain all the time, it's if I know that this is not we planned and we agreed on, then I can help kind of get my mind in the place where it needs to be.
And then like you're saying, well, I guess tonight's the night. I better be ready.
Yeah.
It's for her way to push out anything that's going to distract her.
Yep.
Get rid of the distractions.
And
And focus on and me and her together. Focus on our time together, and get rid of the distractions. Sometimes when it's a crazy day and I can here, come on, put your schoolwork down, let's go. She'll be like, no, my brain's not right. Okay,
yeah.
okay. No,
Yep.
that's
Well,
what we mean by the scheduling thing.
yeah, and it's also if it's not a schedule night, sometimes it helps because you feel like if you are stressed out or whatever, and you can kind of feel like not that he puts pressure on me, but I put pressure on myself, and I can feel like okay, I'm good because not that we won't have a
You
spontaneous,
know what's funny
but
about all this is we're sitting there talking about it, laughing about it, but 2 years ago,
oh,
forget it. Um,
all right, your turn.
okay. When it comes to making improvements or changes for the better in your marital intimacy life, most of the changes that does come with the husband. Sometimes it's the wife, but most times it's with the husband. The husband needs to learn how to show his wife that he loves her when they're not in the bedroom. How to be affectionate outside the bedroom. Ryan and Selena Frederick has a term called simmering. You can't just treat your wife like a microwave dinner. You can't just zap her. Come on, let's go. It takes time to get your wife going. You gotta simmer it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's a weekly process. So I gotta have my wife simmering the whole week. You know, sometimes I gotta take her Starbucks, or get her favorite chocolate, or make sure I do the laundry every day. But simmering.
Yep.
Um, the husband learned how to be more intentional in showing that non-sexual affection, like she talked about. Communicate with his wife in a way that makes her feel valued and loved. So finally, Lori, finishing us out here. What are some things a wife can do to help keep the romantic spark alive?
So I think with the wife, a lot of it is up here. Um, so even if you don't feel like it, still commit to being intimate regularly. That way, you're just intentional about it because you know it's important. So I'm in menopause, so my hormones are jacked up. I'm a teacher, so
TMI.
so I'm a teacher. I'm stressed out, and if you're not a teacher or you don't know a teacher, and I'm not saying teaching is the only job that does this, but it's physically exhausting. It's mentally exhausting because
That won't go on Facebook.
make so many decisions every day, every day. Um, it takes up a lot of my time. School takes a lot of my time. I spent 2-3 hours today working on grading papers. So you have to, you know,
I went to the grocery store and I cooked dinner.
yep, he did. He went to the grocery store and cooked dinner. He always goes to the grocery store, so I don't have to do that. So, wives, I understand you might be exhausted mentally and physically sometimes. However, you should just commit to being intimate regularly so that you and your husband can stay connected as a couple. That what I said about being exhausted may sound terrible, but I can attest. that, like we talked about earlier, just going days and weeks without it makes things worse. It doesn't make things better. So even if
For
you're
both
not
of you.
feeling it, feeling like it, it's still good just to go ahead and, and like you said earlier, if it's just really, really a bad day, okay, put it off to the next day, but
And I
don't
know.
just keep putting it off and putting it off and
Mhm.
putting it off and putting it off. And if you're talking to each other and you're communicating, you have that oneness, he's going to understand. He's not going to get mad and go, well, because he knows it's going to happen. It just may not be enough,
Sometimes I
maybe far
know.
enough.
Sometimes I know at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And sometimes I know the minute before we go to bed. It's nice, not tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
um. So at the same time, you must be willing to commit to spending time together in non-sexual ways. It also contributes to emotional intimacy, so that physical intimacy follows. So don't reject those moments where maybe you just want to sit on the couch and
Mm-hmm.
put his hand on your leg or arm around you or hold your hand or whatever it may be.
Like
That helps too.
like tonight we're gonna go to Starbucks
Yeah.
and we'll come back and we're gonna watch X Files.
Yeah.
That's our
It's
that's our
our new show.
that's our simmering time. Anything
Yeah,
else?
that's it for me.
So finally, we want to share some resources and we're gonna go back and forth and then we're gonna wrap this up. So if you're thinking, okay, that's good. So where can I find some good books or some resources that speaks more about this? So here's some things that's benefited us. So I'll go first. This
They're
is
showing you this one, but
Yep, go ahead.
well, you got that one. So.
This is Ryan and Selena Frederick. These are books you read together, husband and wife. And the book, a husband can read it by himself and a wife can read it, but you must read these together because they go together.
Yep.
It won't help your marriage if you don't read them together. How a husband speaks and how a wife speaks. It helps you communicate and help your relationship grow better. Awesome. Okay. Next one.
Let's do this one.
Okay, let's do that one. This is a husband in pursuit 31-day challenge. Got to read these together. These are awesome. Gives you different things to do.
And it's 31 days,
Yep,
but if you're just like super busy, do like one a week.
yep,
Do whatever the day
yep.
is, do it like once a week.
One
And
of them come to date ideas and write her a letter, and one of them was creating a romantic scene at night. It's
mhm.
different things. This is an awesome book
And some
too.
of the things we did in that pursuit, we still do,
Yep.
even though we're not
Kingdom
doing it.
Marriage, Tony Evans. I still like Tony Evans. I don't care what the big one around him. Tony Evans. And there's a Kingdom Man and a Kingdom Woman.
Yep.
Um,
This
the
one.
show Fierce Marriage, Fierce Marriage.
I think this is the first
This
book
is
we
their first
read.
book.
Yeah.
This is what they based their whole ministry on. If you don't know who they are, get this book. You can look them up on YouTube and
They have a
um,
marriage podcast and
yeah,
a family
Apple Podcast,
podcast.
whatever. We first found this book and then we listened to them on Apple Podcast. Now I follow them on YouTube. These guys are great.
Yep.
Gary Thomas, this is an old book. This is just the new updated version.
Hmm.
Sacred Marriage, this is an older book. We got the old one and the new. We got both versions. So this is a good book. It talks about intimacy too, but this is a good marriage book. Okay, so here we go. Um, this is the book we got from our marriage conference.
That was the first year.
We read this
This is the
book.
second year.
We're reading this book. A year ago, we would never even looked at this book. And we
Yep.
actually said at the marriage conference the first day, not going to get that book. And then
Mhm.
when we left, like, we should have got that book.
We did get it
Yeah,
at
we
the
got,
end,
but
right before we
yeah,
left.
no,
Right
we
before we
ordered
left.
it. Well, right before we
Did,
left,
did
then
we? Or did we order it?
I
Maybe
think
we
we
ordered
ordered.
it.
I think
I
we
can't
ordered
remember
it.
now.
I think we ordered it. And then we ordered this. We got this one at the second one.
And, I just want to say caveat on this one. We don't agree with every 100%
Yeah,
what's in
yeah,
there,
yeah,
but
yeah, 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 yeah.
it's got some good
Now they
suggestions.
do, and in the marriage Bible,
Marriage
that's a good
Bible.
one. It does talk about some date nights and intimacy things. But look, we're not here to tell you what you can and can't do in the bedroom. Um, I can tell you what I think you should or shouldn't do, but I'm not going to do that in a public forum because I think each person needs to be convicted on their own account of what they think God wants them to do or not. If you would say, "Hey, I want to know what you specifically think," I can tell you what I think, but you may not agree with it. So,
And we're
uh,
not like licensed therapists,
no.
but we're just wanting to share from our experiences because it's everything we've learned and figured out just by, you know, trial and error, I guess you could say, has helped us so much. And we just feel like we just need to share it with other people.
And I think,
So,
you know what I think? I think this is one of the most fun episodes we've ever done. But a year ago, we wouldn't even think about saying 5 words about it.
Yep.
Nope. But hey,
Thanks
look,
for sticking with us.
yeah, yep. I hope that this has been beneficial to you. Maybe if we get some positive feedback from this, we may go back and do another episode, elaborate more. But hey, look, we're not going to get in the weeds on what you should and shouldn't do in bedroom. We're not going to talk about techniques or
Nope.
preferences or whatever. That's for you and your wife to figure out. And you can use the Bible. You can use the Bible to help you judge what is appropriate within the bonds of marriage. But okay, anyway, so thank you for sticking with us. And again, we'll put our email in there if you want to email us privately with concerns. And so I hope that this is beneficial to you, and then we can help you in your marriage. And like always, no matter what the topic is, we're here to help you in your marriage and your family. So we hope that we've been beneficial to you. And if you like us, give us a thumbs up and a thank you, and God bless.